Yo, yo, what's going on? What's up, Patrick?
What up, Astro? How you doing, man?
Chilling, dude.
Oh yeah. How'd the debate go?
Dude, it actually went really well. It was fun. It was smooth, man. Probed hit us up with that website, and it was perfect to go along with it. So we had eight contestants that were matched up, and then randomly switched the topics every time, so they were able to debate. So they got about 5 minutes each, and not a lot of people used the full 5 minutes, which was interesting. And then we did a live vote for 5 minutes, and it started out with maybe around 70 or 80 votes, and then the championship, the last round, which was UFO intros versus Desmo, it ended up having like over 200 votes that was live in the space. So it was really cool, dude. And then, it was commentary and everybody was up kind of chopping it up. Nobody took it serious. We didn't have any crash outs or, people were just really going along with it. So it was cool.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that, man. I know you were a little nervous about it, didn't know how it was gonna go. So that makes me happy. Good.
Patrick, you got to do the next one. You should, Gino, man, a list of names. It went so smoothly that I think you can convince people to join a space and just have the dialogue we did. I mean, went really well. Astral hosted it, nice and tight. Nothing got out of hand. It was. I was impressed. I think it exceeded our expectations. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm definitely in for the next one for sure. Count me in.
Yeah, people already hit me up for like, when's the next one?
I like the random topic, like, that's interesting, right? So you just don't really know. You may have to play a side you don't even necessarily believe in, but you gotta play one side or the other, right? I mean, I'm assuming.
No, it was kind of like their interpretation of the topic, so less about, I think, taking a certain side. So like one of them was Bob Lazar. I think the question was like, is Bob Lazar credible? Yes or no, and why? So people had to make their case as to, so it didn't necessarily go from like opposite ends. I think there were maybe like a couple of topics where people like Desmo was kind of one of the main skeptical, I guess, people coming from that approach. So there were some topics that people opposed that, but there wasn't like any required position people had to take.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely in for the next one.
I missed it. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, feel free to. Bryce is in here. He was actually, I think he's accidentally listening anonymously, so he's trying to get that right. So we'll get him up here eventually. Um, but feel free to share any of your content, in the comments up top. I want this, I kind of have this just more of like a open um, panel where people can talk about their creative processes and share their work. We can definitely still do that. I want to just because Bryce's time, get him in here maybe for the first hour or so, do a question and answer, and then we can kind of open it up to everybody else to just kind of chime in and have a open, more of an open conversation. So
Why don't you start, man? Maybe people may not be familiar with what you do, and I totally support what you're doing, man. Would love to hear a little bit more about that.
yeah, I'm working on a bunch of projects. So I have my YouTube channel that I think I'm really most focused on right now, of just growing my YouTube channel, coming out with frequent content about what's going on with the UFO topic. I'm going to start branching out and having some guests. I've been on Patrick's show, vetted a few times, like just like an open discussion, like kind of like where we're having. So just, building a lot through that, doing the remote viewing spaces still, hosting spaces. And also some of the projects, just like with Bryce Zabel and Brent Friedman, I'm helping produce the show Sound, Light, and Frequency, which is a new podcast, as well as Need to Know. So the show with Richard Dolan and Bryce, which has a monthly show. So a lot of that, and as well, I've got coming up with the Psy Games. So I'm also on the executive team and kind of have been helping build the Psy Games, which is a yearly event of like a psychic competition, psychic Olympics, whatever you kind of look at it as. But all those is basically what I've been working on. Oh, we got Bryce up here now. What's up, Bryce?
Can you hear me? I'm not
Yep.
sure I'm in. Am I in? All right,
We hear you.
fantastic. All right. Lovely to be here. Thanks for everybody showing up. Appreciate it.
Well, let's just start off. Not sure how much time you have. I was expecting maybe an hour and a half, if that's cool.
Yeah, let's roll. Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask you right off the bat. You've had a pretty busy last week. You
Oh
were on the
boy.
Y-Files and the Basement Show, and then 𝗜ʰ𝘁𝗍𝗂𝗰𝘁𝗶𝗂𝗂, and obviously the stuff coming out with Disclosure Day. So can you just kind of summarize what it's been for you the last like 2 weeks?
That was a wild time, Tyler, because I mean, the first thing that happened is I was supposed to have been on the Y-Files like 2 weeks earlier. And I believe there was some kind of medical thing going on with somebody at the show. So they postponed it. And it ran straight into the American Alchemy thing that I did with 𝗜ʰ𝘁𝘁𝗿𝗂𝗰𝘁𝗶𝗂𝗂. So suddenly, in 1 week, I did American Alchemy, which is in Vegas, and then a couple of days later, got on a plane and flew to Austin, where Brent was also there, and we did American Alchemy. And I have to say, hats off to both those shows, because a lot of people pay attention to those shows. Those were fairly awesome numbers. I'd say right now, I'm not looking at it, but I think on YouTube, that's like so far like 1.4 million views between the two shows on YouTube, and probably enough to put it over 2 million with their podcast. So, yeah, major thing. Although it's interesting though, because talking to everybody here, and by the way, again, thank you for everybody for being here. It's more intimate here in one respect because you're live and there are people reacting to you in real time. But you do those shows, and yeah, it's nice. You're talking to one person at a time, but they're recording it, so you really don't feel the sort of the immediacy in the moment, other than you're sitting in somebody's office and or their set or whatever, and talking to them. Anyway, they both seemed like great guys, AJ and Jesse, and I really enjoyed it. It was really really a lot of fun and keeps you on your toes for sure.
So you're coming into the space under the Sound, Light, and Frequency account. I would wonder if you can maybe just give maybe a little elevator pitch about the show. But I also want to know of how the show maybe got created, just because we're doing a little bit more of a creator panel. So I think people are up here
Sure.
might be considering doing a podcast or creating something. So how about that all came to be created?
Well, first of all, as Tyler, I think you made clear to everybody, you're one of the producers on Sound, Light, and Frequency, as well as Need to Know. So we couldn't do either show without you and your smart, good efforts. So appreciation there. The title Sound, Light, and Frequency is not one that I is easily said, although I'll put it in the short version, which is, by now, a lot of people know that when Brent and I were doing that Dark Skies series for NBC, somebody crashed our party. Guy called himself JC, said he had seen the pilot. We did a lot of things right, he said, and they wanted to make us some sort of offer of access for intel. That they would give us certain things, and then they wanted us to help work them into our show, which is a pretty crazy concept. Anyway, at that party, and this goes on beyond it, I'm not going to go there, but unless we want to, but at the party itself, I had like 200 people in my backyard. So I was not happy the guy was there, to be quite honest. I didn't know if he was on the level or whatever. And I basically invited him to leave. And he ended up, about an hour later, I saw he was talking to Brent. So I joined them. And he was getting ready to leave, I think, when he saw me coming, because I don't think I impressed him with my friendliness at that point, because there was a lot going on. And he asked for a piece of paper and a pen. He said he wanted to give us something before he left. And Brent's wife gave him the back of a bank envelope and a pen. And for about 30 seconds, he wrote something on it. Then he handed it to us. And without getting too deep into exactly what it looked odd, like some kind of equation with some familiar and some unfamiliar symbols on it. And we said, what is this? And I mean, this is what he said. He said, secrets of the universe, sound, light, and frequency. So when we told that story to iHeart, that when they wanted us to do a, a podcast that they were hiring us to do 36 episodes, and they'd heard this story, they thought that was the greatest title around. I find that it's a little long to write out and everything, but that's the title, and that's where it comes from.
And this newest episode, you actually now have a date in which you're going to release the envelope. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not like we need a drum roll or anything. It's just that we're still looking into it and talking to some people about it. We kind of want to collect our own thoughts. But yeah, September 17th is just where we just had to lay a date out so that we had a target to get to. And September 17th isn't that long from now. It's a couple months. But the reason September 17th got picked is just that is the actual 30th anniversary of the week that this guy crashed our party and used the phrase sound, light, and frequency and drew that envelope slash formula slash equation, whatever we want to call it. So that's when we're doing it. And when we do, not only will it be in the video version for people that watch that show, but we'll also put it up on our website that day. And frankly, anybody at that point that wants to share it with anyone they want to can do so. So it won't be a secret anymore at that point.
Nice. And feel free, any listeners, jump up, ask a question, and anybody up at the panel as well. I've got just one more question, and then I'll just throw it around if anybody wants to ask something. More of a general question in terms of movies, alien and UFO movies. I think that's one of my favorite parts about listening to the episodes is just getting an idea of in the 50s, 60s, and 70s how many crazy different ideas there were going into what aliens were. But I think it also makes me wonder about nowadays. It seems like more narrow of what aliens are defined as. Do you see it as like how do you see the topic going through, sort of these decades? Do you see it as evolving, getting more of a broad explanation, or more of like narrowed into what aliens are?
That's a very insightful question. I mean, clearly we have been on a long, decades long arc of trying to figure out not only in real life, what is the phenomenon, what does it mean, how should we interpret it, but because Hollywood has tended to be reactionary to things, uh, it has been on its own arc of trying to figure out how to interpret what's going on through entertainment product that people will actually enjoy and pay money to go see. So what you get is kind of each decade, more or less, gives you a slightly different take on things. So you are totally right about that. In the 50s, it was flying saucer movies. They weren't called UFOs at that time. Um, they weren't called UAP for sure. They were flying saucer movies. And because special effects were so awful back then, a lot of them were pretty goofy to look at, but some of them I would say had bigger ideas than their budgets and uh, floated a lot of interesting ideas. And if you think about it, the very first film made on that topic was in 1950 called The Flying Saucer. And and then of course you had Earth versus the Flying Saucers and all the other ones that we all know about. Although not everybody has seen them, they're kind of hard to get through, to be quite honest. There's a lot of them and of different varying qualities. But the 60s kind of did a detour on that. Really wasn't kicking out a lot of interesting material. They had Jerry Lewis, the comedian, doing uh, a big film. I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but so they were treated sort of comedically because that seemed to be the way the military was steering us. And there's questions about whether we were, Hollywood was taking any kind of instruction or at least access from them. But boy, Stanley Kubrick blew that kind of wide open with his film 2001 in 1968. And of course, Spielberg blew it open again with Close Encounters in 1977. I mean, that was the 70s gave you a lot of different ways to look at it. You had Spielberg's Close Encounters, but you also had the first Alien movie. You also had the first Superman movie, who, of course, is an alien. So I would say if you look now, a lot of product is kind of heavily influenced, excuse me, by what we already know. I'm going to have to cough here. A lot of the product is already influenced by a lot of what everybody on this on this space right now knows. We pay attention to the what's going on, and we talk to people about it, and we speculated about it. And let's face it, screenwriters are people who are interested in the topic just like everyone else. And what they're trying to do is process that conversation out into material. So it's still a mixed bag. A lot of writers just make things up out of thin air because that's what writers do. But some people are very into the topic and they try to reflect that in the writing. I guess that's the category I would fall into.
Oh, that was great. Awesome. And just heads up for everybody, go ahead and like and share the space. We'll get as many people as we can in here. Patrick, got your hand up. I'll throw it to you, man.
Thanks for showing up, Bryce. This is Patrick with Vetted. I've covered you on my show, a few
Yes, you
times.
have.
So
Awesome. And
yeah.
thank you for that.
I have a lot of questions, but I think one that just kind of comes to the top of my head here is maybe a little more general, but what just considering your history with media and the industry that you've been in, you've seen the change with like how podcasts are, especially podcasting becoming this huge thing, this huge medium. What do you like about podcasting? What do you think are the benefits as opposed to how it was getting information out before?
Well, I think it's well, look, it's a double-edged sword, like almost everything is these days. But uh, clearly, what is attractive about podcasting that draws me to it as a listener and as a creator is the idea that the bar to access is so much lower than it used to be. Uh, if you wanted to express your opinion about UFOs prior to the internet and podcasting and all of the technology, your options were quite often the mainstream media, in which case they didn't want you to do that, so you had a hard time getting on mainstream media. And if you were trying to do it outside of mainstream media, there wasn't the technology to do a very good job with it. And so you were kind of ghettoized back in the day. So now we have kind of the opposite problem. We have a situation where everyone in the world can, in fact, have a podcast, pick up a microphone, and try to build their own audience. And so you do have a lot of the traditional Hollywood vices of trying to sensationalize something to get an audience, which is, of course, is what uh, broadcast networks and even feature films have had to do over the years. There's no percentage in just being good. You have to be watched, and so now you have people fighting to be seen and heard, and not every single one of them is. To use the word that you have usefully employed here, not all of them have vetted the material they're talking about. And so we have we, I wouldn't call it the Wild West anymore, in that there are some guardrails that the people themselves have put on it, but it is pretty wild. I mean, I will go through X on any given day just to try to see what people are talking about, and it's pretty disparate. And there's a lot of claims and counterclaims. And I do notice the one thing that kind of bothers me is when there's a mistake made, the mistake really gets amplified far more than the correction. But that's always been the case, I suppose, in all media. But yeah, I think podcasting is a positive net, and that I really appreciate, Patrick, what you've been doing, because you're trying to hold people accountable. You're trying to explain the context for things, and we've never had it that good in my lifetime in that regard. So, like I said, overall, it's a net positive.
Thanks, Bryce. Great answer.
Yeah, feel free to ask it. I know Probed, you had your hand up, and then I can throw it back to you, Patrick, if you had another one.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Bryce, nice to meet you. I'm
Yes, sir.
Dan with Probed. I'm not sure if you know what our website is. In fact, we just did a recent piece about the interview you did with 𝗜ʰ𝘁𝗁𝗂𝗰𝘁𝗶𝗂𝗰𝘁 and Brent.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
go- I,
talk
Dan, I
about it a
just
little
wrote
bit.
it down, so I'm going to definitely. It's probed. That's what you said, right?
Probed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Probing for information. I always
Yep.
have
Yep.
to clarify. Yeah. So it's interesting hearing your answer to Patrick's question there, because that's kind of like in line with what it is we're looking to do. We started the site earlier in the year, and basically what Probed is like it's a research and context layer for UFO and disclosure. Right. So like there's a ton of things in this field that happens in 3-hour interviews and in podcasts and in X posts, but also in, government documents and old documents, and other things. So what we do is we ingest all of that like a fire hose, and we turn it into timelines, claims, evidence buckets. We map entities, so like people, organizations, agencies, topics, events, that sort of thing. And then we provide assessment notes so that people can see structure around a story, instead of just reacting to the most viral quote, as you said, which in some cases could very well be wrong. So and it's tricky to do that too, right? Like, and that's one of the challenges we found early on is you get so much nonsense that flows through. If you're not careful about your systems and your gates, you're going to be amplifying misinformation or oh, sorry guys.
Hey,
Um,
and Dan, one thing I
Yeah.
just wanted to throw out there as you were
Please.
saying that out, that occurred to me, which is you mentioned the 3-hour interview.
Yeah.
Listen, if you talk to anybody about anything in your life for 3 hours, you are going to make your own mistakes talking about your own life. I mean,
good point.
that's the hard part of it. Then you throw into that people are asking you in a live situation something that may not be on the tip of your memory when you're talking about it. You sort of call back to things. And I found one of the very difficult things about both of those super long interviews is keeping my own story straight. Not that because it's a made up story, it's your own story, but details slip over the years, or you go off on a tangent and you realize, oh, wait, I got that wrong. Which is not a problem when you do it at a dinner party, but it is if you're purporting to be an expert on something.
Yeah, no question. And in follow up, my question was really, do you see value in that sort of structuring around all of this information? It does seem, at least in some large part, that disclosure is occurring. Creators are becoming the archive, or a big part of it,
Yeah.
right? So with that, do you see value in that sort of structuring? And you're someone, like I said, you're someone we source on the website. So you're, and we only source so many people and so many different news networks and other things because of that volatility in the content that comes through. So we appreciate you being nice and grounded with all the work you do, certainly, and the hard work you
Oh, I
put in,
appreciate
Bryce.
that. Listen, of course there's value. There's tremendous value in what you've just described. I mean, here's the thing. Gatekeeper is kind of a bad word if you apply it to UFO secrecy. We don't like gatekeepers keeping us from knowing just essential truth. So in that regard, it's not a great word, but we do need a little gatekeeping in terms of accountability. And I'm a big supporter of that. Um, and sometimes you need also the courage to state the way things actually are. The one thing I've said over the years, because at the beginning of my career, I was a CNN correspondent, and then I was a local news correspondent for a while. And the way you covered news back then is you would say, I always called it the some say yes, some say no, we say maybe way of journalism, because that's how you would book a TV report. You would go book somebody who was on the pro side and the negative side, and then you would do a stand-up that sort of said, well, I guess the answer lies in between. But sometimes the answer doesn't lie in between. Sometimes there is an answer. And I think that what needs to be more courageous in journalism, and why we need people like yourself and Probed, is to say, yeah, I don't think they went far enough there. There are actually facts that they didn't quote. The other thing, by the way, about journalism when it's in broadcasting is, first of all, the bias always has been there about this topic. But second of all, even reporters that want to do a responsible job about it are rarely given the time to do it. So, do I think there is validity in archiving and accountability? Oh boy, absolutely. However, even the archivists have to be looked at, including me and including yourself, Dan. I mean, we all have to be looked at, held accountable. When we make mistakes, we have to own up to them. I mean, one of the things I like to do on the podcast is, Brent and I are part of the attraction maybe of sound, light, and frequency is that it's not all scripted. So we go in knowing a lot, and then we try to just have a conversation about it. And sometimes you'll get a fact wrong or whatever. And I think accountability is owning up to it in the next episode and saying, when we said this, that wasn't right. Give it the same amount of currency that you gave the mistake.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, we got a couple hands up. We'll go to Anomaly and then VC. What's up, Anomaly?
Hi, Bryce. Thanks for coming on.
Hey
So
there.
I have two questions. One, where do you go and watch Sound, Light, and Frequency? And two, I'm wondering what you think of the batches of UFO files that have been released so far. All three.
Okay. All right. First, those are two questions of widely varying difficulty. The simplest one, to watch the video of Sound, Light, and Frequency, I have a pretty healthy YouTube page where we put all the episodes, and we've bought a URL that we feed the page to, so you don't even have to know about it. The page is under my name, my company's name, Stellar Productions. But if you just go to HollywoodUFOs.com, you'll find all of the Sound, Light, and Frequency videos. You'll even find some playlists where if Brent and I mention a particular movie, we will put in some content from YouTube into a playlist so that you can sort of do a deeper dive on it. So we've got everything archived there, including our show Dark Skies, which we talk about a lot. So for people that rightfully would say that's a pretty old show, how do I know anything about it, they can go there. So that's it, HollywoodUFOs.com. And we also have our own website, which is a harder one to remember, not to remember, but some people misspell it. It's soundlightfrequency.com. That's sort of the general page for it. So there's no and in that. That's soundlightfrequency.com. Okay. Now, the tranches, we're up to 3 now. I have to give you a real world answer to that. I've spent a lot of time rooting around in 1 and 2. And by the way, Tyler, I thought did a great job with both of those, and the third one, where as soon as they came out, he was on it, putting stuff out on X. And I saw a lot of them that way as well, besides going to the site. But there's a lot of stuff there. It's not as simple as just, you can't read it all and look at it all in a short time frame. And some of it, in fact, a lot of it I'm aware of, but maybe it's a document I'm aware of, but I haven't read it in years or something. So there's a lot to do. And the third one, for example, is a great example of, we all live busy lives. And when the third one came out, I was in the middle of traveling to do the Y files and to do American Alchemy.
It was a
And
release of Disclosure Day. It was
and
when it came out.
Disclosure Day came out at the same time. So for I if somebody were to say to me then, Well, what do you think of the documents that just got released? I mean, I'd have to say I have no idea. I haven't looked at them yet. I do think obviously the really, really good stuff hasn't come out yet, and that is disturbing. And I thought it was interesting the uh, ability to look at what Spielberg was sort of offering up as a way that disclosure should be like, here's everything, everything everywhere all at once, right? Uh, versus what we're getting in the government's thing. I have to give at least some credit. At least they're somebody's trying and they're posting up stuff. And when Richard Dolan and I, for example, wrote AD After Disclosure a decade and plus ago, our take was it would either be something that might be happening all at once, literally because, say, a mass sighting or something like that, or the release of something, or whistleblower, or whatever, or slow drip. Well, obviously, what we're getting from those video tranches right now is slow drip, but that doesn't mean it couldn't move into an immediate disclosure situation uh, almost instantly. Now, people call that catastrophic disclosure. I I don't think I agree with the term catastrophic. It's like because I don't know exactly what would be disclosed, and probably even though I bet everybody who's on this spaces talk right now, we all have our own idea about what we think is going on, and some of us are more certain than others about what we think is going on. I have found, in contrast, that the more I learn over the years, the less certain I am about key things. And so when people make speculation about what disclosure is going to do to us one way or the other, it would have to be what is disclosed. Even Spielberg's movie, if you think about it, uh, his disclosure ending seems to suggest that we're going to learn empathy and we need to be patient and we need to listen. Okay, well, that's one interpretation. There are some other interpretations. So who knows what is being disclosed? Don't know. And what we're really getting disclosed into tranches right now is something quite different. We are getting, I wouldn't say the tranches have disclosed per se, but they have confirmed something, which is that there is a mysterious phenomenon afoot and that we have been taking it seriously for a very long time, even though we have pretended officially that we're not doing that.
Thank you.
Nice. I also shared the latest video at the top of the nest. So if anybody needs to check out the channel, also there on Sunday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, we do premiere the YouTube episode of Sound, Light, and Frequency live on the YouTube channel. So definitely check that out for each episode. And they come out on Thursday on all podcasting platforms.
Yeah, exactly.
VC, go ahead.
Right.
Yep.
This is a wonderful opportunity. I just want to say I'm near your generation, so I going back just as far as you guys, both of you do in your show. So, and I've been watching everything since Astro brought you on a week or so ago. And I'm one of these deep divers that's been in this since childhood, just like you. So I was
Okay.
there at the 2001, all that.
Yeah.
As I've followed this thing, decade by decade. And I've looked at it from a psychological point of view. Now, I do have two questions. So if I can't get to the second one, I can take a turn. But the first one
Okay.
that I think the primary one is I've done a lot of looking at like somebody like Carl Jung with the collective unconscious and Jacques Vallée talking about the historical presence, how the control shifts historically, if you know what I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
if you what he's talking about. And I just want to say, after listening to Steven Spielberg come out with his recent movie and talk about how he was brought into this subject before he could even read, he mentions about 5 years old and three stacks of science fiction magazines, 3 feet high, when he holds his hand up in the air, and his father was reading him Fate magazine and amazing stories and all this. So he was imbued was science fiction and that belief, which is all full of aliens and extraterrestrials. And then what I see historically, all right, is that you guys in Hollywood, I'm sorry, yeah, it's
Go for it.
just whether you want, whether you, I mean, I'm not saying this is an agenda or a conspiracy or anything like that, but by default, you have the power over humanity in ways that never ever happened before because you brought dreams to life, right? We dream every night, but you can bring a dream more to life than what we dream in our own, dreams. Now we know also the smartphones and the technology and the algorithms and all this stuff comes out of California, including the defense contractors and
All right, get to the
everything else.
question, VC, the first one.
Yep. All right. So the question is that you guys really kind of replace religion in some sense, right? You've got more dominance in a way over the Bible. So if you're bringing up narratives like Spielberg does, starting with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and there's already all this science fiction or other this narrative in there. The military and Hollywood are going to take advantage of this for their own, for their own benefit. Spielberg is a business person. He's making money. He didn't do exactly what Jacques Vallée was advising him about the thing as far as what he thought the phenomena is. So I'm just saying, don't you think it's more likely in a way we, the humans, are the control, sort of controlling what this phenomena is and how we interpret it historically over time, sort of what Jacques Vallée is saying, but we're just not realizing the sort of the unconscious effect that we have and somebody like you and Spielberg has to dominate the narrative and create it. And that's why even, the naval intelligence will come to you and try to get you to, take their information and put it out there because it's just like the ultimate control. All right, that's sort of my idea. How would you comment about
Okay.
that?
Well, thank you for it. Well, the first thing I would say is it's the Spider-Man situation. With great power comes great responsibility. So to the extent that you're um, talking about Hollywood having great power, it would be lovely if it exerted great responsibility over it. That is not always the case. Um, People ask me why Hollywood always makes alien invasion movies, which is not true. We don't always make alien invasion movies or whatever, but to the extent that that happens, that's not because people have exerted influence, whether it be a cover up or the phenomenon itself. It's because it's good box office. Conflict is what sells movies quite often. If you go into a development meeting on a script you've written, half the time that development meeting is about how do we turn up the heat on this? How do we get more conflict into this piece? The other thing is, I have not run across very many people in Hollywood who either write about aliens or think about them who feel that they have any responsibility about it. To them, it's like, hey, that's not my job. I'm just here to write something. So I, I I I actually feel I don't know if it's responsibility that I feel, but I do feel like I have the ability because of some of the things I know to at least attempt to sell projects that are a little closer to the bone of what might actually be going on, or at least to raise those questions. So I think to the extent, and again, I'm not quite sure I 100% understand the question, but to the extent that it has to do with sort of accepting responsibility and trying to make change. I, it's also about the people, not the institution, because there is no singular institution called Hollywood. It's a collection of different companies with different uh, bottom lines, and all influenced by money, but also influenced by culture, and sometimes leading the culture, sometimes taking their influence from the culture. So it's kind of a mixed bag, just in the same way. I mean, you're more likely to get a monolithic governmental approach than a monolithic Hollywood approach, I guess is how I would put it. Um, but the bottom line of what you're talking about is one that I can't deny, which is Hollywood, and by that we are is not necessarily a place anymore. Like Hollywood used to be a location. Now it's more of a state of mind. But Hollywood, such as it is super important. It has it's now global, just like the phenomenon, and uh, and you are going to get a mixed bag constantly. And the one thing I will at least posit here is that while it is true that occasionally people uh, put various ideas into film and TV that either derive from the phenomenon itself or from the cover up or from knowledge, it doesn't mean that the people are setting out to do that. And it is sort of more likely that they're picking and choosing from what we are talking about on X, for example, or a YouTube that they've seen or whatever, and then putting it into their material. So, in fact, one of the great challenges, and I guess one of the fun things about doing sound, light, and frequency is trying to understand that chicken and egg situation that we find ourselves in. Right? Is Hollywood leading the conversation, or is it simply reflecting the actual reality? And sometimes the answer is it's both.
Cool. Thanks,
Yeah.
Bryce. All right, I
Do you
want
want
to
me to
throw it
read?
over to Data, and then
Okay.
we'll go back to UVC for the next
Okay.
question. Thanks,
Yep.
so. Data, what's up, man?
Hey, slightly different question. It's not always common to get somebody with your background in a space. So hopefully you don't mind this question. So there's some new creators in on this topic, including myself. Um, short of like going to college for like arts or production, do you have any like maybe career advice or tips specifically on this topic
Right.
that you could give to some of us out here? Is that something you would be?
I've never been shy about giving advice, even though you shouldn't listen to it unless it helps you. But listen, the rules keep changing for creators, and they change a lot often with the technology itself. And on this particular topic, um, I guess the thing I would say is when I first started working in Hollywood. There were very few people who took this topic seriously. And so I was more likely to get notes that would be fallacious. Somebody would just go, it'd be really cool. What if? And then the what if was just some made up thing, and nobody wanted to hear me tell them what I thought was really going on or anything like that. Um, so that's changed. There are now people all through the entertainment business who are aware of what is going on or what might be going on or what it means. And that's all extremely positive, I think. Um, I will say, though, the thing is just you just keep exposing your work and hopefully something catches on. I was just reflecting on this last night, to be honest with you. It's Data, right? And I was thinking about it because I found that first movie I ever made, Official Denial. It was made in 1993 for the Sci-Fi Channel. It was their first official film, and I managed to get my a quality copy of it transferred into an MP4, and so I put it up on YouTube. And last night, about 7,000 people have seen it since I put it up last night. Now, it's a it's a from a production point of view, it's a pretty shitty limited film. The gray in it is played by a 15-year-old Australian ballerina, so it's not going to win you over with its authenticity of look. But I was shocked to see how many things that are hyper relevant today that I managed to get in back then. And I'll say this: I managed to get all these things into that film, not because people knew that any of these things were potential, but more they just said, well, you seem to know what you're talking about, and that's a good idea, so let's do that. So I think the key thing for a creator is be smart, be informed, be passionate, and uh, uh, and keep at it. Because this is the other thing. don't ever be a creator with when you're with thin skin who's not resilient. Resilience is the number one quality. If I had any piece of advice, it would only be, if you're not resilient, you're not going to make it. Because listen, I have been attacked and put down and crushed, had my spirit crushed by experts, and repeatedly, over and over and over. I mean, I could do a 5-hour spaces just talking about all the insults and injuries that I feel have been visited upon me in this time. And the thing is, I don't know where I got it, but maybe my parents, but they taught me if you get knocked down to get back up again. And I guess that's my advice. Just keep, if you believe in it, if you're passionate about it, keep creating, keep getting up off the floor, and it's always going to be a mixed bag. And by the way, let me just put one specific example out there for everybody. In 1991, I thought I had died and gone to heaven because I got picked by Amblin to create a UFO series for Steven Spielberg. And I thought, man, coming off Close Encounters, this is a TV series that nobody can turn down. I thought the question will be how many network offers do we have? And you know what? 0. Went to 4 networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. No takers. Now, there were 2 reasons for no takers, but they both led to Steven Spielberg himself being turned down on the alien topic. And it was that first, he didn't go to any of the meetings. His take was, well, I like the idea. Go pitch that. Well, people wanted to see him in the room, obviously. So that was a mistake on his part. But it was also in 1991, people were not ready at that point to just out of nowhere put a show even by Steven Spielberg on TV. Now, a couple years later, X-Files got through. So things change rapidly. So another reason to get up off the floor is because things change. And
Was that Taken, Bryce? Was that the show Taken?
No, Taken did not happen until 99. I got hired on Taken right after I'd done a show called The Crow, and based on the movie. And Taken was a completely different thing. And yeah, uh, so again, he did the right thing with Taken, though. He was actively involved in Taken. He went to the network pitch. He, me and my compatriots there, I think I was a co-executive producer. We had 3 long meetings with Spielberg. We didn't have Zoom back then, but they were remote meetings, and he was into it. And I think he understood by that point that no matter who you are in Hollywood, you have to go show up. But even that doesn't work, to be quite honest with you. I also had a deal with Morgan Freeman, who doesn't love Morgan Freeman, and he wanted to do a show about. I think it was called Harley and Davidson Attorneys at Law. He wanted to do a show about motorcycle lawyers. Okay. And I don't know how exact, I can't remember right now, but I got tapped to be that guy. So I ended up creating some series that he wanted about these motorcycle lawyers. And he went to every meeting at these 4 networks. And they still turned it down. They loved having Morgan Freeman on the couch, and I loved being on the couch with him. But at the end of the day, it wasn't something that they were prepared to do at that time, no matter how much they liked him. So, resilience.
Nice.
Thank you
Great.
very much.
Love these stories, by the way. All right, we'll throw it to hands terrestrial, and then John Strader jumped up too. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up? Hey, Bryce, nice to meet you. You know, it's interesting you brought up Taken right then, because that was like going to be my question when I came up about that show. I just wanted to ask, how was early project development on that show? Do you have any fun stories that about what happened with Spielberg or anything that was interesting during development of it? Because it's a great show. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, listen, there isn't a story from my career where there aren't left turns and right turns and things don't go exactly as you would have thought. Um, Taken was already starting to staff when I got hired on it. Like I said, I was coming off The Crow, and they literally had an office next door to my offices in these bungalows in North Hollywood. And when I heard they were doing Taken, remember I had a few years earlier done Dark Skies. So I was already considered kind of a UFO guy in Hollywood. And I'd also done Official Denial. So I had my agent call him up and say, you know, you want to pick up Bryce? And they did. So I got that gig. And for about 9 months, there were, I believe, let's see, me and Manny Cotto and Les Boheme and Tony Graffia and uh, another man named Rich. And I think that was it. And we were locked in a room, a conference room for close to 6 to 9 months, breaking what was supposed to be then a 10-part series. And we, like I said, we had 3 meetings with Spielberg um, that were extended. But here's a funny story about it, if you just want a behind the scenes story. So we're
Yeah,
sitting,
absolutely.
there's
Yeah.
3 of us sitting there. It was me and Manny Cotto and Les Boheme. And the 3 of us are sitting there waiting to talk to Stephen remotely. There's a camera, big ass camera set up on our side taking our images. And he's got one, I think he's in the Hamptons. And you see him in the background on the monitor, tromping around in his cargo shorts and t-shirt kind of thing. And we have a intern or something in the room with us on the headset. And the intern goes, "Oh no," which is not something you want to hear if you're having a meeting coming up with Spielberg. And we go, what's the problem? And he goes, "Steven is not happy," which is the second thing you don't want to hear when you're about to have a meeting with him. We go, what, we're figuring that we've turned some pages in that he's going to react to, and he hates them or something, or he hates us. We don't know. And the intern says, "He thinks the lighting is bad on you." So we had to stop the remote and get a light in there and get us lit better. So I always say I've been lit by Steven Spielberg. So that's my claim to fame
Very
there.
cool. Very good.
Now, the one thing I will tell you, though, about the road that Taken took, somewhere in that 6 to 9 month period, Spielberg, because he's a director in demand, ended up saying he had something else he had to go to, and they disbanded the whole shop. We were all sent away, except for Les Boheme and me. And we were each challenged to write a screenplay. So I did write a 2-hour Taken screenplay. But what happened is ultimately Les predated me there, and he was the senior guy. And yeah, I don't know exactly how this all went down, but I think at the end of the day, uh, uh, DreamWorks and Les probably wanted him to be the auteur of the whole thing and write all 12 episodes. So eventually I was let go too. And then that's exactly what happened. Les went on and wrote the scripts that ended up being Taken. Although when I look at Taken, here's another thing. I all through the thing, I mean, Les didn't know a lot about UFOs when he started. In fact, one of the reasons I was hired is I had a 200 book UFO collection sitting over at the Crow offices, and I moved them all over to their office. And so uh, anyway, so that all happened, and a lot of what we developed in those 6 to 9 months obviously ends up in the final thing. But the thing that kind of is astonishing to me is that when they ended up shooting that pilot, uh, uh, it was directed by Toby Hooper. Their first episode, their first 2-hour episode, directed by Toby Hooper. Well, guess who directed the Dark Skies pilot? Toby Hooper. So they took our director from Dark Skies and said, let's have him do the first episode of Taken. Well, guess who the alien is in the first episode of Taken? Eric Close. Well, Eric Close was the star of Dark Skies a few years earlier. And the line producer, a guy named Steve Beers for Taken, was my line producer at Dark Skies. And of course, I was the creator of Dark Skies and I worked on it. So they did liberally incorporate the Dark Skies creative team into Taken. So I guess I should feel good about that. I have mixed feelings probably,
Isn't
but I feel good about it.
isn't Toby Hooper the one who kind of insinuated that Steven Spielberg actually did take a deal in some sort?
He didn't just insinuate it. He didn't say this to me, but he said it to my partner Brent Friedman at after a location scout up in the Newhall Pass area, I think it was, where we were scouting for a place to do our Dark Skies pilots crop circle, and Toby and Brent and a lot of the crew people who were part of the location scout ended up in some restaurant. I don't know exactly what it was, kind of a roadhouse kind of affair is the way Brent described it. And I don't want to put the exact words in Brent's mouth because, again, I wasn't there. But Toby, uh, in response to Brent saying something along the lines of, remember, Toby had done Poltergeist for Spielberg. He'd also done Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but he'd done Poltergeist with Spielberg. They knew each other. They were friends. And Brent said, well, I know you guys are competitive. You're going to get to do the crop circle before Spielberg ever does. And sort of implying, well, you got one up on him. And Toby kind of went, I'm never going to have one up on Steven. I mean, this is where the words fail me. You'd almost have to get them from Brent. I'm not pulling them up out of my memory perfectly right now. But Toby implied that Steven had told him that he'd been talked to and given key insider information. So, and now here's all I can say is that's not proof of anything. All I can say is Toby Brent is an honest guy. Toby Hooper was honest to a fault, and Toby Hooper said that Spielberg had some kind of insight. Now, I have personally not seen that, right? And he certainly didn't ever say it to me or any of our team on Taken. And in fact, if as recently as these last few months, as he's done these dozens of interviews, he has certainly denied it. So you have to draw your own conclusions there. But on the other hand, I guess I would ask, let's say that he would still deny it, right? Because
Right.
I mean, so we will never know because sadly Toby has passed on. But Toby was a straight shooter, that I can tell you.
Nice. All right, we'll go to John Schrader and then over to Mav and then Vincent and then VC. What's up, Trader?
Hey, great space. Obviously, great UFO Twitter week. Thank you so much, Astro, for all your hard work. Brent, love both your podcasts.
It's Bryce. Come on, bro.
I'm sorry, Bryce. I was just Bryce. I was saying I love your podcast with Brent,
Yeah,
and I
thank
love your
you.
podcast with Dolan.
Thank you.
Watched it all. I just recently watched for the very first time the Dark Skies pilot because you guys talk about it so much, and
Yeah.
so what I was thinking about the whole time while I was watching it was when, and I think his name was JC, when the Navy guy approached you at the pilot watch party at your house
Yep.
and said, I've already seen it. I think you got some things right and some things wrong. You've had a long time to look back at that. What do you think he was talking about that you got right? And what do you think you got wrong? And then I got one more follow-up.
I can give you two specific examples because it didn't end at the party. The week after the party, he brought who he said was his superior officer out to the Dark Skies offices to meet with us. And the specific thing, among things, but one very specific thing that we got right is we put it in the Navy, right? We did not say it was the Air Force that was running Majestic 12. He also said Majestic 12 was right, and that it was, and that the Navy was all over the response. Um, he I guess also said that our central thesis of JFK knowing that Roswell was real and wanting to do something about it in his second term was right. So, that's what he said was right. Now, what the one thing that completely irritated him though was we had sort of gone for the horror show trope of the ganglion, which was an
The squid
alien.
creature. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
the squid creature that burrowed into somebody's head and converted that creature to the hive, the alien hive, and this guy, the superior officer, he was not happy actually to be at our offices, and he didn't particularly like me because I was focused on trying to make a TV series, and he was like, I don't think this guy's taking me seriously enough or whatever. But he said about the ganglion, he goes, this is a quote, he goes, "That's not the way it's done." And what he meant and said was that obviously, dude, there aren't ganglions in people's heads. They do this with implants. So that's what he thought we got most wrong.
Cool. Okay, that's pretty much what I was thinking you were gonna say. I kind of was laughing at the ganglion thing because looking back, it is a little dated, looked a little cheesy, but
Yeah,
I knew where you were going with it.
yeah.
But my other question is, so I think the rights to Dark Skies are owned by NBC still to this day, right?
No,
They're not?
NBC. No, that's not usually how it works. What the networks or today the stream. Actually, it's not even true of the streamers. Back then, networks did not usually own things. In fact, they were forbidden from owning things for many years, and it was only around the '90s when they were then allowed to own shows. Um, so NBC simply licensed the show from Sony/Columbia TV.
Oh,
And
Sony
so
owns it. Okay.
Sony owns it right now. And if anybody could reboot Dark Skies right now, it would be Sony.
Okay, well, that was my question. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's like it feels like the time is ripe for a complete and utter reboot, reset. I would love
yeah.
to see that. You guys were on a good track. I hope you drop all the episodes because I do want to watch the entire season. But I just appreciated it, and I appreciate you coming in here in spaces as often as you do and letting us talk to you. So
My
thank you,
my
Bryce.
pleasure. Thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we need a season 2 Dark Skies. That would be awesome. All right,
Yeah.
Mav, what's up? What's up, Mav?
Man, I've been sitting here waiting to talk to Bryce, and Stratter took everything I was going to talk about. Gosh darn it! What the heck's going on? Yo, I just watched it like from the space the other day. I'm like, oh, I gotta watch this Dark Skies thing, and I was like hooked. I'm like, yo, there's only 2 episodes. What the hell? Like, where can I catch the rest? Then I'm like, man, that would be a perfect reboot right now with the technology and then the creature in the head. I'm like, yo, that like creeped me out, and I'm like, yo, is this what really going on here? And
Well, hey,
and
by the way, let me just throw this out there. The if First of all, I don't control the rights to Dark Skies, as stated. I actually don't make any money from Dark Skies, so I'm about to recommend where you might find a DVD set. I ain't grifting here, guys. I got no stake in this thing, but they made a beautiful Dark Skies DVD set in 2011, and it's recently fallen out of production. But if you go to various places, either eBay or on Amazon, you may find copies of Dark Skies. Now, remember, this is the Dark Skies TV series, not the Dark Skies movie that ripped us off a few years later. Um, but you can get it. And the reason I can't put them all up right now is that what I have found is the copies that I had that I have had transferred into MP4s. Some of them sail right through on YouTube, and they'll allow me to put them up without monetization. So, in other words, if you see ads on the Dark Skies YouTubes, again, I'm not making a dime. Whoever owns the rights to the show gets paid for those ads. But here's the other problem: some shows don't go through at all. So, for example, I put up the pilot. I put up the first episode, Moving Targets, and I tried to put up the next episode, which is called Mercury Rising, and it was rejected as a copyright strike. So I'm not able to put it up. Now, what I have found is that Vimeo seems to have a little looser way to deal with that. So what I may end up doing is putting them all up on Vimeo and then creating a page where people can see them.
Watch party.
Bryce, I just real quick, I would just have you tried? I deal with a lot of copyright on YouTube.
Yeah.
Have you tried sometimes a lot of it's just automated. Have you tried appealing any of that to see
Yes.
if you can get it through?
I
Okay,
did
okay, right on.
appeal the last one, and I think it must have still been automated because my appeal was rejected within an hour. So I really don't
Oh,
see how a human being looked at that. And the
yeah.
thing is, I appealed on the basis that it actually is fair use because it's being used for educational purposes. Given that somebody looked at our series in the government and said, you got things right and we want to make a deal with you, then it makes the actual show itself to be more educational in value in terms of trying to figure out what the hell did they see in this show that they wanted these guys to help them out with. So anyway, I'll keep trying. I with probably varying degrees of success.
No, I just want to say thank you. I mean, I would have found that if you weren't on the space the other night, and yeah, I was like, man, I want to watch the whole thing, and I'm like, oh, come on, jeez.
Listen,
But
the
the
DVD set is fantastic because they also have an 80-minute documentary about it, which I did not write or have anything to do with, and it's very good. And there's some Easter eggs in it, and there's all the promos that NBC did for the show. It's really great. They have a lot in there. And as an added bonus, some of you know that there was an attempt to actually kill Dark Skies before it got on the air. And as a consequence, there are two versions of the pilot, the one that got turned into NBC originally, and then the one where we were forced to reshoot 11 days. That's the one that actually aired in the United States. Well, for whatever reason, when they finally put the DVD set together, they put both of them on the DVD set by accident. So now it's like going to film school. You can see the 2-hour pilot that was the one we shot that we intended to air, and then the one that we were forced to reshoot before it could air.
that's the one I got this. I watched. It was a 2 hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, great film. And you're saying that you were on target, except they put implants in. It's not like a ganglion.
Right. Well, there were, I'm trying to think right now. Brent and I did a whole episode about it. So, frankly, the very answer, the detailed answer to your question is in an episode called um, Burn the Negative. No, Cemetery at Midnight. Cemetery at Midnight is the name of the episode. And you can find that at hollywoodufos.com, or you can get it from your local podcaster, whatever. But
Yeah, they
Cemetery
wanted
at
you to come
Midnight.
out and meet at the cemetery at
Yeah.
midnight, which is like so cliche.
It's so bizarre. I don't know if it's a cliche as much as it's a threat. It just struck me as like, are you freaking kidding me? You want me to, when that was their final offer after the meeting at the Dark Skies offices, they still thought I was a problem, that I was, uh, not getting with the program fast enough. So they called Brent and said, you know, we're going to give Bryce one more chance. There's going to be, I believe they said it was an admiral, but there would be a ship in Long Beach Harbor. And while Brent and I could not be brought onto the ship for obvious reasons, that the admiral, under the sort of the cover of visiting a friend at a cemetery, was going to go to the cemetery. That part is a little weird, but okay. And then they said the meeting time would be midnight. And at that point, I said, "Listen, I've got a wife and 3 kids. There's no way I'm meeting anybody at a cemetery at midnight." And that's when we turned the deal down completely.
If you don't mind, I got one final question. So, these implants, if that's true, so the Greys are then also slaves to some other type of
That's what
entity.
we said.
Um,
Yes, that's exactly what we said.
so, so do you feel that there's those in power, our politicians and things that are also have this technology in their heads?
Well, I mean, this gets into the speculation zone, and whether they did have implants, whether they would control their behavior, I don't know. I do. I have seen, and I am currently seeing some new evidence about implants that lead me to believe they exist. What they actually do, though, I'm less clear on.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining
Yeah.
Space. Great space, Astral.
Oh, that got me interested too. All right, well, we'll throw it. Anomaly, go ahead, and then we'll throw it to Vincent. You up there? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear that? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear.
Bryce,
We
I've
can hear you
so
now.
I think you've spoken about. Okay. Okay. Nice. So Bryce, I'm wondering if I think you've spoken about this before, but the Betty and Barney Hill documentary, a lot of people heard the rumor that Barack Obama was doing it, but then I think you said that it wasn't him and that it was somebody else. Do you think you could clarify on that?
Yeah. In fact, it's very interesting because we just recorded an episode 2 days ago that's about the Betty and Barney Hill story and the Travis Walton story. And I'm recording something right now that'll be in that episode that explains my sort of Hollywood Betty and Barney storyline, because I've been trying to make this movie since the early 2000s, and it's been a bizarre tale of woe and greatness. I mean, it's a mixed bag, like so many things. But the deal is, yes, a couple, I think like 4 years ago, the Higher Ground production company, which Barack and Michelle run, announced they were going to do a Betty and Barney Hill film that would be on Netflix. I literally, you know what? Because I'm also in the market with that, I don't want to take much opinion about that. I do not think it's happening. That I do not think the Obamas are making a Betty and Barney Hill movie. A real interesting question is, why would they say they were in the first place? That's kind of a bold thing for an ex-president to say, but I don't believe they're making a movie based on the project that they had optioned. Then there's another one that popped its head up a couple of years ago uh, that would be funded out of Britain. And again, I'm not going to get involved in trying to compare me to them in any specific way, although that one looked like it was going ahead, but now I'm not seeing any indication that is the case. So, brother, I am out there as hard as I know how, trying to set up a Betty and Barney Hill movie. Mine's called Missing Time, and and the one thing I will say about the movie I'm trying to make is, I believe a lot of other movies over time have either been based on skepticism or neutrality. In other words, the kind of film that would end with Betty and Barney pulled off to the side of the road, looking up at the sky and going, "I wonder what really happened to us." I am not trying to make that movie. If anyone else is, I'm not. My movie acknowledges that what happened to them was real, and it tells that story. So that's the one I want to make.
Thank you.
Hell yeah! All right, we'll go over to Vincent, and then my boy Sal jumped up. What's up, Vincent?
Hey, Bryce.
Hey.
I meant to ask. Hey, I meant to ask this to Brent on Astral's last space on Tuesday night. After having listened to your story about the Office of Naval Intelligence officer approaching yourself and Brent to make a deal, as well as how you guys got that cryptic message, being told to open it in the future. I'm wondering, and I don't know how deep you've thought about this yourself and how much you've looked into this. I have an intelligence background. It's in geospatial intelligence. It's not in stateside or covert intelligence or disinformation. But nonetheless, I'm always thinking about this stuff. Do you have a mental model or working theory that subscribes to the idea, if these intel agencies are attempting to manage disclosure, if they've gotten a bit smarter with their tactics about how they approach or poach writers and directors and producers, for getting them to push their version of managed disclosure forward,
I think that,
compared to how they approach
right,
you?
it seemed clumsy in some respects how they did approach us. I'd assume they have to be smarter. One of the reasons we started to do Sound, Light, and Frequency, though, is by telling our story, we wanted to see if other people would come forward with their own stories. And we've heard a couple of them now that are either one of them's already on the show and another one's coming up, where people had something similar, not identical, but something similar come up. And but from different agencies. I think, Vincent, the thing that I come to the conclusion, I mean, it's hard to come to a conclusion because what happened to us was clearly real. I mean, these people existed in physical space and were saying the things they said. Was it disinformation? Was it real information? Were they actually intel people? Were they somebody else? Were they aliens? I don't know whatever. But I will say that at least during our interaction, it appeared that we were in the middle of, um, I guess, a dispute in the intelligence community about how the topic should be managed. Because these guys, when they came out to the Dark Skies offices, first of all, I have to just say they felt very authentic. I mean, that doesn't mean they were. It just means they were they were not bad actors. They were good. They came across as exactly who they said they were. They spoke like it. They dressed like it. They, whatever. But they said that they invoked I believe it's from 1988, the UFO TV show special that is now associated a little bit, I believe, with Richard Doty, but it was the one where the alien uh, was described as having enjoyed strawberry ice cream, that kind of thing. Anyway, the people in that show were described as the aviary. They got bird names, right? They were the aviary, and that meant that they were Air Force. And I know it sounds laughable, but again, all I can do is bear witness to what happened to me. I can't make it sound better or worse. I can't prove or disprove. But what they said to me and Brent, um, when they came to the office, was they acknowledged there was a group called the Aviary, and that those people in the intelligence community were not open about disclosure. Their attitude was the people can't handle the truth, and it needed to be kept quiet. And they said, and I don't know if they were making this up or it was real or whether it was an example or whatever, but they said, think of us as the aquarium, and that they were intelligence people affiliated with the Navy. And of course, that is something that does resonate in that Dark Skies did say that the guy in charge of the cover-up response was Navy. Uh, Forrestal was Navy, I believe. John F. Kennedy was in the Navy, um, and so the Navy seems, and of course, many of the videos that have come out Navy, so that there is kind of a sense that there is a split between the Air Force and the Navy about how this should all be handled. And it always felt to me that we were kind of in the middle of it.
That's interesting too. And even when you look in the remote viewing program, there, I think you're looking at different. Like the Army had their remote viewing program, then the Navy and the Air Force had even their own remote viewing program. So these groups can definitely look at each other at a different approach. All right, everybody, like and share the space. Bryce, are you good for about 20 or 30 more minutes for some questions?
I'm good for about 10, to be honest, because I've got family pulling me out of here. But I wanted to just point one thing out, though. These are all great questions. And I just want everyone to understand every question I'm answering in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, there is an episode of 60 minutes about that same question. And so one of the things that Brent and I have tried to do with Sound, Light, and Frequency is, yeah, you can jump into episode 19 or 20, where it's just where we're at now, and they're certainly fine, and you won't feel like you've missed, you'll feel like that's an acceptable place to go. But if you want to get the whole experience that sort of walks you through this intelligence thing at the same time as it tries to dimensionalize the whole Hollywood UFO connection, we recommend you go back to number one. That's the one called Party Crasher. And that is the one that is all about this party that happened and the JC character that came. And then there's episode number 4 is called The Man Who Cried Himself to Sleep, which is about the Secretary of Energy, who was a family friend of Brent Friedman, who basically disclosed to him that aliens were real and he'd seen them and been briefed at an underground facility about them. And then it goes on like that. We, out of the first 20 episodes, there are 8 of them that we would call are part of the there's no other way to say it. I guess they're part of the Dark Skies dossier, right? That if you were to watch them in order, you get through all of them, um, and and they kind of feed in upon themselves. And again, all Brandon and I are trying to do is bear witness. So, for example, in one of them, it's called "We Are Watching You." In the year that we were shooting the Dark Skies pilot, while it was actually in script stage and was, I believe, either in pre-production or early production, I got a postcard at my house addressed to me at my address. It bore a forward message. It was typed in black typewriter ink off a manual typewriter, and it did not run like a full sentence. It was one word stacked on top of another and another and another, all in caps. And it said, "We are watching you." And if you go to soundlightfrequency.com right now, you can see it. And you'll see how that kind of stuff put me in the mood of being a little paranoid. And then a year later, JC shows up at my party. So there's a whole storyline that kind of all fits together and makes you say, somebody, can't promise who, but somebody put Dark Skies because of the things it was saying on its radar and felt the desire to either influence or threaten or control us. And ultimately, they did not. Ultimately, we did not go along with any of that, but they sure tried.
Right. Even the guests too. I think the Lawnmower Man was an interesting episode where the producer of Lawnmower Man came on and they were talking about the simulation theory. All right, I
Yep.
want to get I want to get through the hands
Yep.
just so we can wrap it up. So we'll
Yep.
do a kind of quick draw round.
Yep.
Let's go to Sal and then we'll go up to 𝗜脾𝘁𝗁𝗂𝗰𝘁𝗍𝗔, VC, and then UFO Sarah. Quick
Okay.
draw round, guys. Just like a minute question and we'll go through.
All right.
Hey, it was actually I have a question and comment for you, Astral. So I'll let the other ones go.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep the space open after Bryce heads off. So stick around. We're gonna be chilling for a little bit for sure. But any questions we'll throw it around too. All right, go ahead, 𝗜脾𝘁𝗁𝗂𝗰𝘁𝗍𝗔.
Yeah, hey guys, good to be here. Bryce, good to talk to you. I was the guy ran into you here in Austin at the IMAX, you and Jesse in line for the
Oh my
show.
God. How great is that? Hey, he's like a rock star there. I mean, everybody knows the guy.
Yeah, yeah, no, that was funny. It was great to see you guys. Yeah, so my question for you is simple and quick, and that is, have you talked to your buddy Richard Dolan about the idea of an After Disclosure Volume 2? So here's my pitch for you. All right.
Yeah.
You pull your David Grush access. All right. You get read in and you help the administration, you help Congress, you get all the juicy updates, and then you come into spaces and you tell us all about it.
Love this.
Listen, Jiggy, I would love to do another volume with Richard Dolan. I think the problem is the time frame of writing a book is many months and things keep changing so fast that's why I think people end up on podcasts and so forth. I will tell you this. We wanted to update AD After Disclosure, and they approached us from the publisher to do that. This is about maybe 4 years ago. And I mean, again, everybody deserves to make a living for their work, including a plumber and including an author, right? So we said, we're absolutely down for that. We'll drop what we're doing and we'll do it. What will you pay us to do that? And the publisher said, we won't pay you anything. You'll do it because it's your book and you'll update it. And so we passed on that. So I would love a volume 2. I think if we were going to do it, we wouldn't call it AD this time because we wouldn't want to be involved with the publishers that think our work is worthless, right? I think we'd want to make a new volume, and we've talked about that. I mean, the problem is both Rich and I, we're very busy people, and book writing is very intensive. And I believe he's still got one more volume of his USO trilogy to go. And I've got 15 more episodes of Sound, Light, and Frequency. So we're busy guys, but I wouldn't put it past us. I mean, it's clearly something we think and talk about.
Yeah, the play would be to get the access, right? To get in with get read in, and then you have all the material you could ever need.
Yeah, but how do you get read in? I mean, you don't just say, "Hey, I'm looking to get read in. Somebody give
It's
me a
like
call."
taking the
And
deal.
also, yeah, I mean, I've been down that road, and also, even if somebody did say to you, I mean, people have accused my ex-partner Coulthard of being read in, but also controlled. I mean, I don't think I like my independence. I wouldn't want people to think I was shilling for anybody on the inside. I get your point, Jiggy. It's a dicey proposition. That's all.
My assumption would be that disclosure is actually happening, and they need help with the communication side of it, and you
Well,
guys would be perfect.
I love that. In fact, I will say that the main reason Rich and I we wrote the book because we both said nobody. We each own 500 UFO books, and we said I've never read a UFO book that isn't trying to prove UFOs are real. What if we accept they're real and write a book about what happens when we admit it? And we thought after we did that other people would follow suit, but nobody really has written an entire book about it since. I don't think. And uh, part of the attraction for us in writing it was we thought, okay, well, if we write this book and it's as unique as we think it will be, the gatekeepers, such as they exist, will probably read it. And maybe we can influence them instead of them influencing us. Maybe we can influence them to be a little more transparent and open on this topic.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, UFO Sarah, go ahead, and then we'll go to Diogene and then VC for the last questions.
Thanks, Astral. Bryce, it's great to be here with you in the space. When you were talking earlier, you reminded me quickly of Matthew Brown's post that he made to Elon last year, where he says justice is coming thanks to the at FBI and at U.S. Navy. Something else that I picked up is that in the age of disclosure, they were, they were throwing the Air Force under the bus. I mean, throughout the entire movie, I mean, it's just very obvious. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious. I feel like you brought that up earlier. Like, is there more than a pattern that we're seeing here? What are your thoughts on it overall? Thank you.
Just so I'm clear, a pattern of what?
Of the division between the Air Force and the Navy. And
Yeah, listen. I feel it myself. I was certainly told that. I know that Coulthard and I did a show about it, and I believe he certainly uh, takes that as an article of faith. There is division between them. On the other hand, it did look for a while like the Navy was literally going to be the heroes in this, and Coulthard's point of view was they seemed to be retrenching on that. I think rather than if there's a pattern, it's a pattern of ebb and flow, like the ocean. The ocean is a pattern, but it's not one that uh, it's happening again every day. I don't think we are quite to a place where we could count on anybody in particular to do the right thing. And also, I think it's so it like if you watch Disclosure Day, Spielberg's projecting some kind of cutout, private enterprise cutout, and yet even in one of the scenes there's a military official there. I just think it's unclear exactly who's in charge and what their plan is. And there are probably smarter or better informed people than me who do know something about that. I feel I'm still in the dark about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Diogene, and then VC for the last question.
Hey, thank you. I got to stop the air conditioning because in France we are in hell. It's so hot there. Uh, First, thank you for the that story about Taken and Steven. I didn't know that, and also with the that post disclosure book with Dolan. It's very good. The way you introduced that idea. It's, I think we all in that point when I'm having 400 UFO books. So first, it's a note. I think you mentioned missing time, but I think that term coming from Bud Hopkins, just tell me if I'm wrong. I just want to say very quick because I don't have a lot of time about the story of being in your head. We had a very big journalist in France. He was legendary mainstream French TV news for the 70s, the 80s, highly respected, highly credible. He became a UFO researcher, and he came lately with a story looking exactly of the space octopus. You know, I know it sounds crazy, but he spoke openly about it. That during the hosting the 8 p.m. prime time news on France biggest network, the first one actually, he got the sensation walking onto the set and felt like a sudden peaceful sensation, but also like an invisible octopus inserting his tentacle into his brain. He
Whoa.
had no he had no memory recovering of that period. So he asked to the National Archive TV, to watch it again, and uh, so he spoke publicly about that. So it reminded me that story. So I was very. That's why I'm speaking. And so my question is, Bryce, did you have any receive intimidation relating to that topic? And if not, you're lucky. What do you think about abduction? So first, intimidation or oppression, and if not, what is your take on abduction? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, first of all, let's all make a shout out to France for the Cometa report from 1999, which was a brave act
Thank you.
of a government to do that. You are correct. Bud Hopkins did write a book called Missing Time. However, uh, it missing time is a concept that's certainly become part of our culture in the same way that Kleenex represents a tissue now. So I don't have a problem calling anything missing time because everyone talks about missing time. Did I receive intimidation? Well, yeah. If a guy sends you a postcard that says, "We are watching you," that's intimidating. Uh, you know, to be quite honest with you, when I received it, it was the equivalent of somebody showing up at your house at 3 in the morning with an air horn. I mean, that's intimidating. There's no way to look at it. It's not good to have that happen. I think it was intimidating for a guy to come to my house, right? And do what he did. It was intimidating for him to bring his superior to my office, and treat us the way they did. So yeah, I, I think there's different kinds of intimidation. I have a script, for example, about Roswell that I'm out with right now. Um, and that one literally deals with the people who do the intimidation to maintain secrecy. And if you think about if you think about intimidation, there's a spectrum of it. Getting a postcard's on one end and getting a bullet in the back of the brain while you're on your knees in the desert is probably another side of it. I haven't been physically intimidated or anything like that. As for abductions, look, it's like anything else. Are all reports of abductions true? Of course not. Just like people report crimes that didn't happen. So we're humans and people make things up from time to time. Are abductions a real thing? I believe they are, and have been for quite some time. Are they uh, extremely common or extremely rare? I'm still kind of without a made up mind on that one. I know that I believe that they are more common than we might have thought, but they might not be as common as some people would like us to believe. But I do think in a post-disclosure world, we're about to find out.
Thank you very much. Very complete and great answer. Thank you,
And
Bryce.
thank you.
Thanks, Diogene. All right, we'll throw it to VC for the last question for Bryce. And thanks, Bryce, for being here.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it.
Love it.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming in. Because you are the ideal type of person I would love to converse with for hours. But I am actually going to be doing a space on sort of the topic that I'm approaching with you, because I see this is a primary important topic that needs to be discussed in great detail. And I know you said you had a little bit of issue about even understanding the point of my question or something. So I would like to have you at least listen to the space. Once I would do it, I'd have it recorded so you could maybe get some input for your own podcast or something at some point. Because this really needs to be covered. It's an important topic. And so follow me back and I can send you a DM. Anyway,
Yeah.
the other question that I have with your partner, I don't know whether it was you or him that had the experience with the Nordic up on the Seattle
That's my partner. Yeah, I have not had
Puget
anything
Sound.
like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, all right, now, if he wants to have disclosure to the whole entire world, let's go visit those Nordics up there. Because if they are really truly ultra terrestrials or extraterrestrials, it seems like there's a home there, a location where they're operating out of. So why not check that out? There's the story right there.
I don't disagree with you. You can say that about a lot of things that people say, and I, I guess the other thing is, on what authority do you go check it out? I mean, you know what? I don't know. I haven't given that a lot of thought, but Brent certainly tells the story. I've heard that story for years. Brent is, as he has made clear in many of our shows, he's the experiencer. I mean, of some of this stuff. I have experienced the cover up, is how I like to put it, and I've experienced Hollywood. So we just have different experiences. The idea that you would actually run into somebody who says they're a Nordic, I don't know. I wish he would. Next time I'm up visiting him on the island, I may make him take me over there, and we'll see what happens.
I appreciate that question. And thank you, Bryce. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you wanted to say before you head out? The soundfrequency.com, UFOhollywood.com.
Yeah, listen, I just I think what would be most useful to us right now, because we're on the cusp with iHeart, is they need to see growth in the show in order to pick it up for a second season. And obviously Brent and I have grand plans for how to use it as a forum. So to the extent that anybody can help us tell their friends about it and speak it up, we really do appreciate it, because it seems like again, no problems with iHeart. They've been lovely in terms of supporting the show because of its content. But at the end of the day, in about 3 months, they're going to take a hard look at our numbers. And if they like the numbers, we get more. And if they don't like the numbers, we go away. So anything that helps us stay in the hunt and on the air and still getting funded enough to do some of this research is a real positive for us. And the reason I think it's kind of intriguing is there are a lot of people working in the data acquisition and of the UAP issue right now, and the political part of it and all of that. And there's a lot of competition to do that. Brent and I kind of have another way of trying to look into this story that is unique, and we think we might be guys that turn up stuff that's as intriguing as some of the people looking at the data. We just need a little time to find our feet. So we appreciate everybody's help. And I just wanted to say to everybody who shows up on a Saturday to talk about this with me, how much I deeply appreciate you. So thanks all.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bryce.
All right, man. Take care. Thanks.
See ya. Yeah, we're gonna keep the space open. I want to kind of maybe bring this up against the line to Mav space, so feel free to jump up. I wanted also creators, kind of the second half of the space, to share their work. So in the comments, share videos, content, stuff that you've been working on. Feel free to jump up in the space. Wanted to kind of pick people's brains a little bit on their creative process. Sal, what's up, bro? Shit, I can't hear him.
Same.
Yeah.
That was an amazing guest, by the way. I just want to say, holy shit, Astro. One of the best spaces for a while.
Yeah, Bryce is great, man.
And what can someone explain me very quickly what Stephen told him? Oh, Stephen is very unhappy, and because I missed just the second part of the joke.
So there was a episode that they have with the show where Steven Spielberg was producing the Men in Black, the movie Men in Black, and Dark Skies had Men in Black in their show. And essentially Amblin, the company that Steven Spielberg works with, was trying to get them to change the show itself because they had the Men in Black.
It was like a copyright issue, right?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't even that. So they had to make they had to make a case. It wasn't, because I think it was sort of the frame that, like, these are the men, we're coming out with the movie called Men in Black, and we came up with this idea and you guys stole our idea with when it wasn't that at all. And they had to come up with a whole fucking binder of information to show that, look, this Men in Black idea was 10 years before this shit even happened. So it didn't happen with Steven Spielberg. It happened in the lore of UFOs and shit. With the comic book. They made it off the comic book.
Thank you, Astro.
There was a comic book about it?
Yeah, the Men in Black was a comic book before that. Yeah. That's where I think a lot of the stuff came from. It was it's kind of like a lot of the stuff nowadays, they The Boys or Invincible. A lot of the stuff happens from comic books, which is crazy. Marvel and shit.
But there was already some story with Bender during the 50s with the Men in Black, because I've read the book of very good book of Nick Redfern about the Men in Black, which is not a big one, but he relate even from the early 50s that he came into the first man who made the first UFO club, like international one, coming from USA, and say, oh, you can come, it's the first UFO club, and then Men in Black came, and he said, yeah, just to shut up, and that's it. But sorry, Anomaly, you were jumping.
Yeah, just to jump in on this same topic real quick, I'm just adding to what people are saying here. Yes, the Men in Black has been used as a prank thing all the way back, starting at least in the 60s. Jim Mosley talks about this in his Saucer Smear newsletter. So, yeah, but here's the fascinating thing, and that would have been an excellent question for them, because they do a major part at one of their podcasts about how they were overpowered by the upper echelon powers that be in Hollywood, from having to totally change their Dark Skies, many aspects of that program, not just the Men in Black, but a whole bunch of stuff. So that goes back to my theory again about the power of Hollywood and the power players in there that have over the dominance of narratives and stories. and these guys had the hammer laid down on them, and you need to listen to that podcast about that, because where they talk about that, because
No, you're right. They tried to get it like even like it's stuff that you wouldn't even think about. And VC, you're right. Like you couldn't have a farmer like in a crop circle with the farmer and shit. Like stuff you'd be like, wait a minute, man. Like you're trying to take this out. So it was definitely, and what ended up being the deciding factor in a lot of this is the owner of NBC, or like a high up NBC executive, was like was basically like, fuck you guys. I'm broadcasting this show regardless. And so it came down to like the person who owned the show, that owned NBC, was just basically like, like, F you guys, like you're not gonna censor my show to take out all this stuff because you guys are coming out with another movie.
Yeah, but the thing was, I thought that the outcome of what they said in the podcast was that they had to change all these things. They weren't able to
Some of them,
defeat any of
yeah,
it.
some of them. They had to
They
change
bowed
some of it,
down.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they couldn't have
It
like
was
men in
great.
black, like actual men in black suits. That's what Bryce was saying, that there was a first version and a second version. So the second version that they made, they had to take all that shit out. So you can see that the changes were made. Like they couldn't have different things in the pilot. So there was actually two versions that were made.
Yeah, it just shows the power of PCB people, and even the fighting within the Hollywood and who could produce what. There are people that have the hammer, man, and they control. So that's got to be explored way more detailed. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Also, go
George
ahead.
has their
What's
hand
up,
up.
Sal? Yeah, what's up, Sal?
What up? Hey, man. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, cool. So real quick on the topic of Men in Black. So not sure how you guys feel about John Ramirez, but he often talked about Chase Brandon being one of the advisors for Men in Black, and highly recommended his book Crypto's Conundrum, which I find very interesting. If you haven't read it, definitely go read it. Um, my original comment was, so I'm leaving Roswell now. My girl and I, we just went to the International UFO Museum, and a dude by the name of Donald Schmidt. He was there and he was talking, and I asked him some questions. Is this the last day of UFO Twitter, the Twitter week, or is it continuing?
Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow, bro. Damn, you should have
tomorrow?
mentioned that to Bryce, because him and Don Schmidt are boys in Roswell. Don Schmidt's like a fucking
No.
expert at Roswell.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, I'm the number one expert of the Roswell crash, and lead investigator. And yeah, it was some good information. But I told him about UFO Twitter Week. I don't know why, but I thought it was next week. I got all his contact information, and he seemed interested in like a Q&A with you. But
Hell yeah.
I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, I wanted to mention that. I'm gonna send you his information, and then hopefully you can catch him before the week is out, because I think,
Yeah, dude. We had him on. What's funny is him and Bryce are fucking boys, bro. Like, they're real cool. And yeah, he's deep into like basically him and Stanton Friedman used to go head up on the Roswell case.
Yeah, he spoke about Friedman as well. We also talked about John Alexander, and he's like, he's a spook. He doesn't really like him. He doesn't really like him at all. But yeah, that'd be dope. Anyway, that was pretty much it, dude. I always love the UFO Twitter Week. Apologies for not being around as often, but always good to hear.
Hell yeah, bro. Glad you jumped in, dude. For real.
All right, brother. Later.
Astro, how do you feel about the Roswell case?
Roswell. So I went to Roswell. What's funny is that's where I met Bryce for the first time and got involved with all the need to know shit. So I spoke at Toby with the Roswell Daily Record. Invited me to speak about remote viewing and shit for my very first presentation ever at a fucking conference. So I went to Roswell and heard through the grapevine that Need to Know needed a producer. So I went to Bryce and was just basically like, yo, I heard you need a producer. Like, what's going on? He's like, yeah, I need somebody to help me. I was like, I'll fucking do it. So that's literally how it started.
When
But
was
one of
that? What
the
year was that?
that was like 2023, I want to say, at the conference there. So maybe like 3 years ago. And so the most impactful thing to me was going to the museum of Roswell. So when you go to the museum, they have like the museum part, and then they have like this whole library, like archive of all this stuff, like everything you can think of. And there's just like a lot of stuff that you can look at. Really just looking at all of the testimony. So they have all of the people who were involved in the Roswell event, like 50 people up on the wall, and their testimonies and how they were involved, from the people who were driving, to the who were, handling the bodies and shit, to the hospital people. Like, it's just so much shit that it just gives you a little bit different perspective when you're there at Roswell, kind of seeing all the stuff and the historical information. So I loved it, man. I thought it was pretty cool.
Astro, I wanted to just hop on here. When I was traveling back in early 2024, January, I went through Roswell, and I was like immediately drawn to the library versus the exhibit at the International UFO Museum. And I was just flipping through Billy Meyer's like craft photography, and when that happened, we later were driving out west, and then we rolled through into Sedona, Arizona. I told this on a previous space that I had an orb sighting out there while I was dispersed camping with my fiance. But it's just kind of interesting how that one one experience led to another.
Has anyone read The Witness to Roswell? Because that's what I'm reading right now.
What do you mean?
I don't know who it's by. I would have to check, but just a researcher wrote a book about Roswell.
Okay, I'm going on the Roswell because I learned that very earlier by the ex-former director of the French kind of aero. We call it JEPON, which is under the direction of French NASA equivalent, which is the CNES, the Center National of Study of Space. And the guy came and he said that what you have in the stand in the heart of a million of people around the world is coming from the craft, because the memory shape is coming from a mix between titanium and nickel. So I was like, man, he's an ex-former director of the scientific. Yes, they're all scientists in that organization, and he spoke like hours and hours about like you said, Astral, about the usual people who were witnessing the event. So he spoke about the nurse. He spoke about, of course, Jesse Marcel and the son of the guy, of many of a soldier who was shooting on the middle and looking to his bodies. Look, bodies, go and shoot at the middle. You will see there is no it's doing nothing to the metal. It was like they were so it was many witnessing sounding like truths, like with normal people that give you that sense that how do you lie, with so many usual people telling their story about what happened in Corona that day is it's almost impossible. But that's just my sense, you know. VC is coming here and say, "Oh, it's UFO magazine." That's why Spielberg is in the. So that's funny to hear from that take. But I'm too long. I'm sorry, but that's my Roswell story.
Astral, I didn't know you were involved in the Sound Light Frequency podcast. Maybe you mentioned that's totally over my head. Give me the backstory on that. That's super cool.
Yeah, well, I've been working with Need to Know. So I said in Roswell, I met Bryce. So I heard that Need to Know needed a producer. So just with the in the creator panel type of mindset, that's how I got involved in Need to Know. Is I was at the Roswell. I was speaking at the a Roswell conference, and I met Bryce, saw him speak, and then I heard just through people who were at the conference that they didn't have a producer for Need to Know. So I just went up to Bryce and was like, "Yo, I heard, hey, introduced myself and just said, I heard you don't have a producer. Like, what are the needs that what do you need?" And kind of jumped right in and just was telling myself like I'm just gonna fucking try and kill it. And the first week with Ross Coulthard and him, like I just tried to come in and try and help out in any way that I could and just be on top of things. And through that, working with Bryce, I was able to jump on board when he was developing the project with iHeartMedia as a kind of like a executive or assistant producer. So I was brought on to take the audio and to make visuals and like AI and do the little bit of edits and I use video production to do the video for the YouTube channel. So that's kind of my role, is just to kind of take the audio and stuff and make some visuals out of it as well.
No, that's super cool. I didn't know that. And good on you for just putting yourself out there. I mean, that's a lesson for everyone out here, right? Like, go do, because nothing's going to happen if you don't go try and do and put your best foot forward. So that's awesome, man. I didn't know that.
Well, it's tricky too, dude, because when I first got involved in the UFO topic, I was just like, I want to help out everything that I can, right? Like, I just, whatever it is, I'll fucking contribute. And I think you have to be maybe a little bit more careful into what you're contributing towards with your time and effort and shit. So I think when you resonate with something, and, the more that I worked with it with these guys of like just Ross Coulthard, Richard Dolan, and Bryce and all that, I just really liked what I was doing. So yeah, I've worked with organizations in the UFO topic where it doesn't work out like that. It's kind of like not the best. So you kind of have to just work within the topic of navigating your way through it sometimes.
But he said, Bryce said very quick that Stephen had some information coming from the inside. I always say that. And the same with James Cameron. So they didn't came from UFO magazine. They came with people coming from the inside that give up some classified information. If you ask to Gary Nolan, he will tell you nothing. But if you are clever enough, you understand the guy knows something too much, too big, to say, yes, I know. This is what they show me, So, oh my God, So I didn't mean to cut him off. I'm sorry, but that's what I was thinking during that moment.
Yeah, just to respond in general from their own podcast, people who are interested, my name was mentioned here just a few minutes ago, is on their own, Light Sound podcast. They talk about things that I'm talking about. They talk about Walter von Braun, who's the famous rocket scientist that got us to the moon. Without him, we wouldn't be anywhere. And he's before his deathbed, they talk about how multiple times he was warning the populace about 3 instances of the use of using aliens as a ruse to create psyops, all right, on the American people. This is a common, well-known thing, documented with declassified things too. But they mention this themselves. Okay, this isn't just stuff I'm pulling out of my, you know what, all right. And there are 3 different examples that they used with Walter von Braun, and said this was repeated several times. It wasn't just one time, and it was his personal aide. So they refer back to that person too. Uh, there's another very important thing that they talk about in their podcast that is something that I emphasize a lot about, but unfortunately, I just forgot it. So I'll bring it up here in a minute. But these are things that these people explore. And just because I have a deeper interest in that, I have a sophisticated interest, I think, that's doesn't involve silly things like optical fiber and Kevlar, and where that came from. Anyway, that's I'll stop right there.
That story came from Stephen Greer involving Carol Rosin about the Werner von Braun stuff. So, I'm not sure. Stephen Greer, Carol Rosin, they're not like, very high credible.
And we can switch it over to the UFO other topics. We don't have to get into that because I'm interested in what people think. One about the psionic. I think Vetted, you did a video recently that was released today about the video that was released by Bautista. And, we got the UAP forum, all this stuff. So, feel free to cover that or bring that up too. I'm interested in people's thoughts on that.
Can I ask one quick question on the creator side? I think the audience would like, especially with Vetted up here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it ties into what Data said, the question Data asked earlier to Bryce about being new to the creator space and what to focus. And his answer, I thought, was spot on, and that was just being resilient and, the whole perseverance side to it. I think of AJ with the Y files as well in an episode. Maybe he's mentioned this a couple times, but how they were just grinding for, I don't know if it was a year, I don't know if it was half a year, but no views, and they're cranking out awesome content, but no one's following, right? Because they're new, and it's just a function of being new. So full circle, my question, Patrick, you've got 100,000 plus subscribers on YouTube. You have a large audience, and I know you did stuff prior to Vetted with the UFO angle, but like, what was your genesis story with the UFO with Vetted specifically? Did you start it with with low viewership and have to kind of plug through that, or did you have enough momentum through your prior stuff that you had an audience, they're kind of, ready to consume whatever it is you were making right out of the gate?
No, I did not. Um, I started zero as well, with nothing. The other podcasts that I had before, I'd still be doing it if it worked. It wasn't doing good numbers. It wasn't doing well. It was fun. All I did was interview people. I did three to four interviews a week. It was just, that's all it was, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, but it wasn't building an audience. So that's why I switched to doing something like Vetted. And yeah, it was nothing. Nobody was watching Vetted when I started. I mean, that's just with anything. Yeah, unless you're bringing something previously that you can build on. Like Bryce has a career in this that he can, sort of jumpstart. But I started with nothing. Nobody was watching Vetted. Everyone hated Vetted. Still, a lot of people hate Vetted. And you just got to grind it out. You just got to keep going and get into the algorithm. And basically, like for YouTube, especially, that's where my biggest audience is. You basically have to show YouTube that you're going to stick around, right? And an audience needs to know that too, because many people start podcasts and then don't continue with it, right? They give up, or they're inconsistent. They put out one episode every 6 weeks, or they're just not consistent. So it's hard for someone to be like, "Oh, I'm going to invest time in you. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to subscribe to you," right? And YouTube says the same thing. Why am I going to give you impressions on the platform if you're not sticking around, or people can know that you'll be around. And that's basically what I did. Was just That's why the first year I did vetted, I uploaded a video every single day for 365 days straight. About after almost actually a couple months after I started, I made that commitment for 1 year straight, 365 days, and I did not miss a day. I uploaded a video, and that really helped. That helped show the algorithm that I was consistent. It helped show the audience that I was going to be there. You could count on me, invest in me, because I'll be around. I'm not going anywhere. I really think that's the key, is just letting people know that you're going to be around. Now, what the content is and how good it is and what you're doing and all that, you can figure that out along the way. You don't necessarily need to have everything figured out. You can build it as you kind of go, and you learn. You'll try some things. That's why I recommend try things till you find the thing that works for you, and always just be you and do the thing you're doing. Don't try to copy someone else. You can be inspired by other people for sure, but just be yourself, and eventually you'll find an audience that will come to you, and that just takes time. You start building, and then as you grow, the growth can feel a little exponential, to some extent. But you just got to stick with it, show the audience you're going to stick around, and show the algorithm that you're going to stick around, and then they start to pump you out, because that's really the only difference, is impressions, right? YouTube showing you to people. There's a lot of shows that might get a lot more views if YouTube just showed it to people. That's half of it. It's just getting shown. And that just takes time. So I hope that answered the question. I feel like I rambled a little bit there.
No, no, no. That was really insightful. So, would you say, were you going into vetted with prior experience of how that worked? Did you know you needed to grind? And I say that because a lot of people who are just starting, and even us included, through the lulls of the cycle of starting something new, right? You hit a point where it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending all this, time on something that's clearly not giving any output? No viewership, no one's consuming and listening. That's immensely frustrating when you spend so much time on something. So did you learn that prior, or was, we're all learning as we go, of course, but it sounds like you had an idea of what you needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I've always done a lot of creative stuff my whole life, whether it be music or filmmaking. I tried to be an actor for a while. Like you learn that's just kind of the thing you got to do. You got to grind it out, hustle, right? But really, what taught me was running a food truck that I ran in Austin, for about 7 years. And you start with nothing, and nobody's coming, and you're making all this food, and you're putting all this effort in, and you're prepping. And I would work from, like, I don't know, wake up at like 5 a.m. and work till like midnight, 7 days a week. I think I did that for the first like year and a half. Um, and nobody's showing up, nobody's coming. Just little by little, you make a new customer one day, right? And then you just keep adding to it. But you just got to stay with it and don't give up. The moment you think you should quit, don't quit. Double down and keep going. Again, just do you. Eventually people will find you, right? Because what happens is, a lot of people will start to change what they're doing, because they think, well, nobody's watching, so this isn't working, right? But that's not the thing. The thing is, you just got to get shown to more people. More people need to learn about you, word of mouth. People start sharing it, right? It just takes time to be seen. Um, and so you just got to stick with it. But I really learned it from that process of taking that food truck from nothing to sticking with it and turning it into having 3 locations, like full blown catering business. It you just grind it out, and you eventually can find that audience. I firmly believe that there is no secret to success. Um, it's really, in my opinion, just grinding it out, um, and sticking with it. You just don't give up. Clearly, there needs to be some talent and some smarts and a little bit of creativeness, right? Like, there clearly needs to be a little bit of something that works that you build on. But you really don't know if you have that or not till you grind it out. And everybody's journey is different. So some people may take 6 months, they might start popping off. Some people could take a year and a half. Some people take 3, 4 years. So you don't know. So it's really just up to you. How far are you willing to go? But I think you need to make that decision before you start, because if the goal is, well, if it doesn't take off in a month, I'm quitting. What the fuck? Well, of course, just don't even try, right? Like, again, you need to show an audience that you'll be around, that you're going to stick around, that they can in 6 months know that you're going to be there, and stick with it. So, and I think anybody can relate to that in any job they've done. I don't think you have to do anything creative, right? It seems pretty standard. It's a very simple. Uh, it's like poker. It takes 5 minutes to learn and a lifetime to master. It's the same thing with being a creator. It takes 5 minutes to learn, but a lifetime to sort of master the idea. Um, and I think finding other creative people around you helps keep you going, keep you accountable, right? When I ran the food truck, I knew other food truck owners, right? I knew other people trying to do the same thing and grind out as me as well. That building a little community can help you push you forward. And I did the same thing with Vetted, kind of made friends with a few other creators, and that helps keep you going and kind of grind it out.
That's a good point. I'm going to hop off in a moment here, but I just wanted to say, even I say our early days, like we've been around for I don't know, 5 months or whatever, 4 months, whatever it is. Luck is a thing in any venture, whether it's you're a creator or business or any situation, right? You always things need to align to a certain degree, and staying in it long enough makes that luck surface eventually, right? But then, like you said, the little things along the way, like when we started, Patrick, you within our first month, you posted, retweeted or reposted one of our posts, and got us more exposure than we had ever seen. And we didn't know you at that time, but it was a stroke of luck, but also like doing good hard work that gets noticed, and you get lifted up along the way. It's like, all right, let's keep going, let's keep going. So we're grateful, for the support you've shown, and anyone else in here who is passionate about this and has their angle and wants to do and create and contribute. You got to grind. Like that's the biggest thing I'm learning, and I think Patrick just elaborated on that very nicely. So no, I appreciate that. Good insight, man.
Are you still doing in a food truck or food business at all?
No, fuck that. The pandemic hit, and I switched over to podcasting. Essentially, that's how I ended up here. I'd still be doing it had the pandemic never hit, and I feel like I'd be burnt out for sure. I was already getting burnt out. I was in the food business for a long time, and anyone that's done that knows how hard it is to grind out. I love cooking, but yeah, I was definitely burning out. But the pandemic definitely made that decision for me.
Yo, vetted food truck contact in the desert would go pretty hard right now. Anomaly,
Oh,
what's up?
that would be cool, Asher. You'd have to help me. I need a sous chef, baby.
Yeah, I want that UFO flat round taco with all the toppings, all the alien toppings.
Love it.
You can name them off of like the big names, like the Hal
Uh,
something. I don't know.
no, that's a great
I want the
idea.
green alien, please.
I'd name them off of crashes, maybe potentially. Get the Roswell, get the Kingman, get and then kind of, be inspired by different details of the crash, right, to sort of make the dish. Anyway, I'm getting too nerdy here. Too
Nah,
food
alien
nerdy.
chicken fingers. I'm down for it. Anomaly, what's up? Go ahead, jump
I
in.
don't want the I don't want the Carleon dressing.
Just so you know,
So this is kind of an out there.
there is an alien restaurant on an alien theme in Sedona. If anybody ever goes there, a lot of people probably do there.
So this is kind of an out there question for Vetted, but Vetted, do you need an editor? Because I'm available, and I'm looking for a job right now. So if you want to look at my stuff or anything for I have a YouTube channel called Anomaly Files as well.
Bro, DM me.
𝗜παιঢ়, but
I am actually.
yeah,
I
just
am.
running.
Yeah, DM me, dude. I am looking for an editor. So look, that's how you do it, guys.
Okay,
You just
that I
shoot
will.
your shot. Go for it. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
Hell
man. I
yeah.
love it.
Wait, so can I DM you without you following me, or
No, you gotta
I don't know
follow
how
each
that
other.
works?
Yeah, I don't follow anybody. That's just a rule embedded. I don't follow anybody on any social media channels, just so people don't think I'm biased, I guess. I don't know why. I just started it that way and now I got to stick with it. But yeah, you can
But if
still
you
you can
got
DM
your
me.
message open, yeah,
Right,
Yeah, I'm
so
open. I'm
yeah, it's
open.
open.
Yeah, yeah.
so wait, how? So I can just
Yeah,
do it?
yeah. You can just go to my profile
Okay, bet. Thank you.
and message me and I'll look for it.
I just figured I'd shoot my shot. You know, it's a
Shoot
creative
that shot, big dog.
channel space.
No, I love it, man. I'm all in. I appreciate the offer and yeah, definitely. Let's talk.
We all like
For sure.
the Devil Tower group in Spielberg because I was loving that Spielberg moment in that space. It was awesome. Go see the Red Panda documentary on Spielberg. It's very good. But you know, I was in Thailand and a man was showing me his picture of USA, of Wyoming, and he showed me, oh, and I said, that's Devil Tower. And he said, how do you know that fucking name? It's impossible. I said, oh, well, you know, I can't tell you, but it would be a long story.
I
Hey,
actually
I
wanted
just
to
have a
ask,
question.
hold up. I wanted to ask Patrick, because you just did a video of the Bautista. I thought you were gonna do your space on this, but I gotta know your thoughts on the Bautista footage, bro. That pro pixel Billy dude fucking analyzed too.
Okay, I'm not trying to piss anybody off. If anybody watches my show, they know I'm just gonna speak my mind, but I try to be respectful. And I put out everything I'm about to say is in my video, so it's not like I'm changing my tune or anything. I personally did not think that was a good video, and it's a lot more nuanced. I'm not going to hog the space here, but essentially, I think a video. If you have to tell me what I'm seeing in the video, I don't think it's good. It looks like a flashlight through a spider web, if I'm being honest. And I think I would like to see an uncut video, a oneer of showing Mike Batista, right? Showing his face, showing him doing the psionics, and then pan over with the camera and see the craft land and zoom in on it. And, let's get some reference and context in the video. And I think a video should be able to stand up in the sense that you could show it to any random person who doesn't know anything about it. You just say, hey, look at this video. What do you see? Oh shit, I see a alien spacecraft landing and two aliens walking out. If you just show them that, they're gonna be like, "What is that? There's a light. I don't know what's going on." So I appreciate the effort and what they're trying to do, and get out there and make something happen. But I personally don't think that's a good video in my opinion.
So wait, do you think it's like a hoax, or do you think it's like a misidentification?
I don't want to say hoax. That's implying a strong accusation against somebody. What I meant by it looks like a spider web through a flashlight. I'm just saying that's what I see in the video. I'm not saying that's exactly what it is, or they're trying to deceive anybody. Um, I just
It just
think,
doesn't stand on its own,
yeah,
like
exactly.
you can't look at the video and be like, oh yeah, and I think that's what's the most confusing part is you have this supposed video expert analyzer, breakdown where he's like, this is real. This is an interdimensional alien coming out from a portal. And I'm thinking, wait, what? That doesn't make sense to me. Is the analysis that came along with it to kind of announce that this was real?
Yeah, I agree. How does he know what dimensional warp bubbles are or any of this stuff? Like, but maybe he could add more context. I don't know if he's a video image analyst. Well, he's not a scientist, so he can analyze an image. And I know image analysts as well. Like that's like your doctor telling you about your car. Like it doesn't mean anything. But whatever. Again, I'm also just to put a solution out there. I'm also not trying to armchair this. So I'm actively trying to get out in the field, potentially with Batista and other people, and take my own camera and film and report back because just like I did with psionics, where I went out and I filmed, I showed the whole process. I show people, their face, their head, their body in the desert or wherever, doing the psionics and then tilting the camera up to the sky. Like, yeah, I think people need to see the whole process too.
The raw footage, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
exactly right. That's the tough part is we're getting this 10-second clip and being told what it is, and there's no context of the footage of them going out. Like, I would love to see the 20-minute raw footage of them going out and then eventually coming to this experience, right, where they're filming it and their actual raw reaction of what's going down. But it's just kind of like this, this clip that's put out there and kind of manufactured to be explained in this certain way. I want to see the raw fucking shit. And I think, if you would put this footage on the doorstep of any video analyst, there's no way that they would look at that and be like, this is an interdimensional alien coming out. Like, for somebody to be put forward as like, I just look at the opposite, where Mick West, like, is Mick West going to come to anywhere close to that conclusion? There's no fucking way. But you have to sort of look at it. I'm almost like, oh, all right, we need Mick West in here so that we're not like totally, framing this in some sort of way where when you look at the raw footage of the video, you just can't come to the conclusion that they're interdimensional aliens coming out of a portal.
I don't even think Merrick would even say that either. Like I think Pro Pixel was like the only analyst, quote unquote, saying that sort of thing.
This is like the case for all, like, well, not all, but a lot of UFO videos. It's like a 10-second clip. And obviously they could have gotten like 6 minutes worth of footage off this. Why did you stop recording, bro?
yeah, exactly. And show the process
I
leading
just
up
got a
to it.
question real quick. I just got a question real quick. Hello, can you guys hear
Go
me?
ahead, August. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the panel what kind of forbidden knowledge they have to share with the community. What kind of forbidden knowledge do you got?
Boom, what you bring on the table? Boom.
Well, I mean, like, everybody here has got a lot of information, but what forbidden knowledge do you got?
I have 0, so I'll set this one out.
You don't got any forbidden knowledge.
Me too. I'm not Jack Vallée. I got 0 forbidden knowledge. I'm here to listen.
Listen, I'm
Listen.
no Marco Rubio, right? I'm no Steven Spielberg, but I would have to say I got some forbidden knowledge.
Spit that
Any
shit, bro.
sufficiently
Spit it.
advanced AI.
Hey,
Like what?
we got this going for about 10 more minutes, so I'm about to roll it into map space. Spit that forbidden knowledge, bro.
UFO whistleblower?
Hey, listen, man, I'm no UFO whistleblower, I'm not one of them type of guys. Excuse my French, but no Marco Rubio neither, you know what I'm saying?
Hold on, I've got some. Any sufficiently advanced AI is indistinguishable. Black.
Man, I'm trying to get that. I'm trying to get that Bledsoe shit, bro. Let's go.
I got some forbidden knowledge, but I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if everybody's ready for it.
We're not.
Clearly.
Look, I've listened to you, Augustus. I remember about the skin, translucent skin, maybe 2 days ago. So I'm listening to you guys.
I don't know what he just said, but it sounded forbidden.
Oh, you too. You sound like a robot.
Sounds forbidden.
Hey guys, this is Tony Betts. If I can say something real quick.
Yeah, what's up, Tony? Go ahead, man.
Hey, well, first of all, fantastic week, man. This has been awesome. I've been participating or listening as much as I can this whole week, and done a phenomenal job. And I'm already looking forward to the next one. That being said, For all of you who were there on Tuesday, I participated in the psionics and CE5 panel, and talking about my book, The Covenant Beneath, and some of the experiences that I have and how I've incorporated those experiences into a fictional novel. Really cool novel about Arizona friends reuniting at a rock star's mansion in Wyoming, and they stumble into a situation with a billionaire neighbor there who is a trophy hunter, and a whole series of events happen. I don't want to blow the story, but the net is that the villain is a billionaire trophy hunter. The hero is also a billionaire himself. He developed technology based on CE5 and psionics, and how to get into a meditative state almost instantaneously and to be able to make it happen so it works efficiently. Long story short, it works, but the billionaire next door decides he's going to shoot it down, and it turns into a whole shit show. The reason why I'm bringing all this up, obviously, is first of all to promote my book, but secondly, you guys were talking a minute ago about being careful and being, you know, being selective about what you share. Um, I was on that panel on Tuesday, 3 o'clock on Wednesday. I was called into a Teams meeting by HR, and I was laid off out of nowhere after being there for just 2 months, still in my training program. And they wouldn't give me a reason why. They ultimately said that if I think long and hard about it, I'll probably figure it out. So, um, I'm not sure if they were spying on my laptop and were listening in, and I don't know, whatever. But so just for y'all out there, the stigma still exists, and you can still probably have some consequences for being out there. And it's a shame because we should all be able to speak freely about this time, and I thought that I was in a situation where I was able to do so. But so anyway, yeah, buy my book, help me out. That would be fantastic at this point. I've got a cool website, thecovenantbeneath.com, built it all myself, and a lot of cool stuff in there. And it's going to be a trilogy, and halfway through book number 2, and it's going to be really cool for you musicians out there. It's very musician centric in a lot of ways, and I think that you're gonna find reasons why you can really bond with the number one thing people are saying is that it's real people, real relationships, and grounded by real UAP experiences. And it's the latest one was Stranger Things meets Close Encounters. So a lot of cool things. If you could help me out, I'd appreciate it. And again, Astral, thank you very much for putting on such a fantastic week.
Yes, thank you, Astro. It was fantastic week, fantastic space. Tony Beats, you're not the cousin of the Tony Beats of the Alaska Gold Rush, apparently, but I'm sorry. I just want to ask that question. Do you have any autobiographic element in your book or not? Or maybe you can't say, because I heard like Brandenburg or other scientists, they told them, oh, you cannot say the real story, but you can put sci-fi and it's okay for the dumpster.
Well, that's exactly
So
it.
my question is,
Yeah, like I
yeah,
turned.
thank you. And we were speaking about Wyoming 5 minutes ago also. Thank you.
Yeah, we turned it into a total sci-fi plot, and fictional, and really cool stuff. I mean, it ties all the like Skinwalker and Wyoming and all the hotspots around the world. I mean, go check out the website. You guys literally dig into the website, and you'll see something pretty cool that I built. And I can't wait for book number 2 to come out, because there's going to be some really fun things that people have not really experienced before. That is going to blow the minds of a lot of people. I can't wait for it to happen. So, but again, Astro Man, you rock. This has been fantastic. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'll throw it around to the speaker panel. We're going to close it up in about 5 minutes here. So if anybody wants to say any last minute things, definitely appreciate everybody for coming up and joining the convo.
Yeah, I may be stupid, but Tony, once again, you said you were UAP experiencer, so maybe you just can say a few words if you or about that, because I didn't know about your story, but without being asking too much, because you might because say so thank you. I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah. If you go back to the recording for Tuesday, for 𝗜𝘁𝘁𝗶𝘁𝗂𝗰𝘁𝗍, it's all there. It's all recorded.
Okay, thank you. I will.
Yep.
Thank you.
I want to give a shout out to Astral and just show my appreciation for what he does and these X spaces. I don't know if he gets enough love, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up his ass. But it's the only X space I go to. I don't do X space. I don't even host X spaces on my own profile. So I love coming to Astral Spaces every week, and the fact that he does this UFO Twitter, and I think what he provides to the community is just so important. And there's just not a lot of people like that. And I also hear a lot of people come up and speak in his spaces that are really, really insightful, ask great questions, bring great stories, experiences, a lot of different things. People with no platform, people that's what this community is. It's just everyday people who are interested in this and want to know something. I think Astral really gives them a place to sort of meet. He's Cheers. Where everybody knows your name. He really is Cheers. And I think that's a great thing to have. So I just want to give Astral's props for everything he did for UFO Twitter Week and creating the conversation and what he does. And I just think it's really special. And again, everyone else who comes up and speaks and brings all of their different viewpoints and everything, I think that's just really powerful. So that's what attracts me to this sort of stuff myself. And I just want to say thanks to everyone.
Yeah, I would agree. This is like the only X space that I really come and speak into and everything. And I love the debate space you did last time as well, and I hope we get to do that again. And yeah, and actually, thanks for making me co-host for a little bit for this time. Thought that was an interesting experience.
Hell yeah, dude. We definitely got to do another debate space, right, Patrick? We're already getting requests for the next round.
I'm in, baby.
Yeah, that was awesome, by the way. That was fun.
Digi Jordan, average Chris.
Oh, we'll get the extreme version, right? Like the not this is like the cookie cutter version. We need like the WWF
This is a
version.
warm up.
Yeah. Well, appreciate everybody for coming out. Patrick, thanks so much for co-hosting and really jumping up and giving your perspective, man, on creative stuff and behind the scenes. I think it was a really good discussion with Bryce coming in and everybody coming up and asking some great questions into, just the creator side of things. I can relate to trying to get some advice on how to build your channel. That's what I'm trying to do right now with my YouTube channel. And just building a platform and trying to establish yourself as a brand within the UFO community. So recognize everybody coming up, share your work. That's a lot of what UFO Twitter Week is about. Thanks for everybody for coming by. Check out the next spaces. We still got it going on this weekend. All love. Thanks, guys. Peace.